In today's episode, we're going to dive into some famous words by the one and only Yogi Berra. You might know him for his legendary baseball career, but Yogi was also a gold mine of wisdom. So today, Mark and I are going to talk about some of his classic quotes that could apply to financial advice and what you could take away from them.
It's easy to get lost on the way to retirement. Things like taxes, improper planning, and excessive market risk can all lead you astray from your goal of a successful and happy retirement. That's where Liz Whittaberry comes in. She's a holistic financial advisor and the founder of Best Path Advisors, and she can help guide you to a better financial path. This is Retire on Your Best Path with Liz Whittaberry.
Welcome into Retire on Your Best Path. Thanks for hanging out with Liz and myself as we talk investing, finance, retirement, and some yogi-isms as Liz teed up in the intro today is on the docket. It'd be kind of fun. And I guess, Liz, we should probably share with folks what kind of sparked this conversation idea this week, because you had a cool little experience. You got to go to Fenway recently.
I did, and it's my first time to have been there, and it was quite incredible. I have only been to the Arlington.
For the Rangers?
Yeah, for the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice. It's nice. But Fenway is a whole level above that in the enthusiasm and the
history,
involvement.
For sure. Yeah.
The history, they gave us a tour, and that was quite interesting to see the players' jerseys and, walk through all of the different areas where they've captured the history of the park and the people that have played there and the people who own it and all of that. So the guy who took us through the tour was so excited. He said, "You're going to love this as much as I do by the time we're done."
Did they take you down to the Green Mile?
Yes, we got to sit behind the Green Mile. Yeah, we got to come in
Green
early
Monster,
and
I
watch
guess I
them
should
practice.
say,
And yes.
Yeah. I'm mixing my movies with my baseball, the Green Monster. That's what
Green
I meant.
Monster.
That's what I meant
Yes.
to say. Yeah. So you guys sat behind. Okay, very cool. Nice.
Yeah, we got to sit there for a little bit.
Nice. Well, and so obviously Yogi, right? So got you kind of thinking about that a little bit. So we'll have some fun with this week, and really, you're right. I mean, he had some just spot on, funny, sayings or quotes or whatever, and you could apply them certainly to a lot of different aspects of life, and finance is one of those as well. So we'll have some fun with that. I'll give you the quote, and then you take us wherever you want to take us. All right.
Okay.
All right,
Sounds
so Yogi should have been a politician with this first one. I never said most of the things I said.
You got to wonder how somebody how he came up with all of these,
Right,
just
right.
on the spur of the moment, all of these funny statements. But, when you think about that and you apply it to finance, I think it makes me think of all the times that people think that they have walked away from a conversation or an explanation someplace else, and they think they know what they heard, and they didn't really hear what they thought they heard. And one area where that's really true is annuities. People will come into my office and they'll have an annuity and they don't understand how it works. And they think it works entirely different than how it does work. And they're sure that they were told that it works the way that they think it works. And so it's
Right.
really important to, with anything, to get a good understanding of how does it work and how does it help you and how does it apply.
Yeah, I think sales pitches in general, right? Sometimes, no matter what the context, sometimes can take on a bit of a life of their own in our mind, especially as we walk away, right? Think about any kind of something, especially if it has that really, oh, this is like perfect for me kind of feel. You tend to maybe, over the next couple of hours of thinking about it after you've walked away or after you've done whatever, it tends to kind of snowball sometimes and take on a life of its own, right? So that's a really good way of thinking about that. So making sure that you're truly having something explained to you properly, especially with a financial product before you get into it, so that way you understand it completely. Great point.
Yeah.
Okay. This one works really well for nowadays, too. A nickel ain't worth a dime anymore. Boy, ain't that right.
It is very true. It is very true. And, our inflation has been top of mind, obviously.
Just a little bit,
yeah. Just a little bit for the last few years. Now, the Fed does say it's coming down. So that's a good thing. But when it comes to your long-term financial plan, inflation is going to be one of the biggest risks that you have.
Sure.
How much things are going to cost in the future is going to play into how much money you're going to need to have saved. And so it's very important to think about inflation, address how you're going to keep up with inflation, and make sure that you have a good plan for that over the long term for as long as you're going to live. Very important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, and even with inflation coming down, we still have the compounding effect of it, obviously. So it
Yes.
doesn't feel like it right now. It's going to take a while to shake all that, right? It has to stay down for a while, and so there's
And
oh, go ahead.
and to that point,
Mhm.
if we've had inflation, even though inflation might be coming down, it means prices aren't going up as fast, but they
Right.
still have come up to where they're at.
Right, right.
And so they still are a lot higher than they were, and that's going to play into what you need.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
in the
how
long
often do
term.
they give that back, right? I mean, it takes a little while before companies will have to, the market sets the price, right? So, people have to stop purchasing things before they're going to start to bring those prices back down. If there's no reason for them to drop them, even though inflation is coming down, they're not going to drop them, right? So,
Yeah, and we really don't want to be in a deflationary environment where prices are coming
right,
down. That's not a good
right.
place to be financially. So they're not going to encourage that at
No,
all because
not at all. Exactly.
that could create a whole other set of issues that we don't want.
Yeah, great point. So it's more complex sometimes than I think people realize. They're like, oh, here's the number. Great. It's like, well, no, it's there's a lot to it, and it takes time for a lot of these pieces too. So. All right. So that was 2 yogi-isms. Let's do another one here. This one's kind of similar to the Lewis Carroll quote. If you don't know where you're going, you might wind up someplace else. That's fantastic, right? I
Very
think the
true.
Lewis Carroll is what? If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right? But this one, if you
Yeah,
don't know where you're going, you might wind up someplace else. I mean, pretty spot on. I mean, pretty basic, right?
exactly. And when it comes to retirement planning, if you don't take the time to define what you want that to be in retirement, you get to retirement, well, you're just going to have whatever you've got
Right.
and whatever you can afford to do. And so it takes a plan to actually be proactive and have the retirement that you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like a healthy, I guess, account balance for like just kind of bundling it together, Liz, doesn't necessarily mean you've got a plan, right? I mean, we go through our life
Right.
collecting these things, and we get to a certain point and we go, great, I got a basket of goodies. Now, what do I do with it, right?
Right, right. Does it cover everything that you want it to cover?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. A big number may be big enough. It may not be big enough. It might be a lot bigger than you need. So you need a plan to know.
Exactly. All right. Well, kind of right along that line, Yogi also said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. And I like this one because to me, it's just, look, we are going to come to forks in the road about different things in life. You've got to make a choice, right? Doesn't matter if it's
Right.
left or right, just make one.
You do. And one that is very top of mind for anybody getting close to retirement is what am I going to do about Social Security? This is a really good example of this. You have to decide what age you're going to start.
Sure.
That impacts what you're going to get. It impacts what your spouse is going to get if they have a spousal benefit. And so you've got a lot to think through. What are the pros and cons of waiting? Do I wait and get those delayed retirement credits, or do I
Mhm.
start early and take some of the pressure off of my portfolio and have that income coming in? And so you've really got to go through what are all of your options, pros and cons? How does it impact you individually when these decisions come up? So you know what's the best fork in the road for you to take.
Yeah. And if you're thinking about even just getting a strategy from that standpoint, even just sitting down with a professional, Liz, right? Some people go, well, I just can't make a decision. I just can't make up my mind or I'll get to it or whatever the case is. Well, there's a line in a song that also says, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice, right? Doing
Right.
nothing is a choice as well. So whatever
I
it
had
is,
I got a call, I had a Zoom meeting on Friday
Mhm.
with a lady who had listened to one of our episodes,
Okay.
and had heard me talk about the fact that I would have recommended something different for somebody that had deferred comp if they had come in early enough to had made a choice.
Mhm.
So they had waited to come in and do the planning right at retirement. You can't make any changes in your deferred comp at that point in time. You're already past the point in time of making a different distribution on that. And so for tax reasons, I would have recommended doing it a little bit differently. They would have still had the same amount of money, but a little bit less tax to pay. So she wanted to go ahead and get the conversation started well before she needs to make those decisions
Mm.
so that she knows before she gets there what is the decision she's going to make. And she hadn't even thought about that until she heard the conversation.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that we were able
Yeah.
to help her then. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
me too.
point, right? Is providing hopefully useful nuggets and things that maybe spark some synapses in our brain to go, yeah, I probably ought to talk about that, right? Or I probably ought to take
Right.
a look at that. So very cool. Very good. Glad to hear that. Well, Yogi also said the future ain't what it used to be. Boy, that's right too.
Yeah, very much is in all areas. And I think we're all kind of feeling that right
Yeah, for
now
sure.
with social media and politics and all those things going on.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to retirement planning, years ago, people worked for the same company all their life and then they had a pension.
Right. Yeah.
We don't have that. And people don't work for the same company all their life. Pensions have gone away. People have to think about what they're doing to put themselves in that position of having financial freedom where they can decide if they want to work or retire or whatever it is they want to do. And so that's that's something that you should really sit down with a good planner and take a look at that and make sure that you're on that right path.
Yeah, I mean, when we're planning for anything, I mean, we obviously there's stuff we can't control about what's coming down the pike in the future, right? But trying to make our best guesses and put some things into action is a better hedge than nothing, right? And then, of
Right.
course, you make adjustments as life changes. I mean, that's the way it's always been. I mean, when you're getting married, having kids, whatever, you're always kind of walking into the unknown. That's part of the beauty of life, right? But you also, you try to protect yourself along the way too. So same thing when it
Yeah.
comes to your future
Yeah.
self.
Planning lets you know what you can control and
Mm-hmm.
where you can push levers
Yep.
to make your situation better.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, and this, because if you don't and you wind up, doing nothing, you might find yourself saying this yogiism. It's like deja vu all over again. Where nothing ever changes, basically. Wait a minute, didn't just this just happen to me, right? And of course, deja vu is something happening to you again, which is what makes this humorous.
You saying that makes me think of learning from other people.
Okay,
Like we can avoid some deja vu if we will learn from other people and the
sure,
mistakes that they have made ahead of us.
absolutely,
When I first saw this quote, the thing that I was thinking about was all of the cycles that we go through in our economy and in our market, because we're going through that right now. The Fed's going to change rates and the market has been in a bull and people have been afraid that it's going to enter a bear and
right,
all of this is going on right now. That happens all the time. We always, if you look back over the history of the US, there are always crises, wars, things happening, the market's going up and down, and it continues to go up over the long term. And so we have to stay focused on that long term, make sure that we're set up for the short term, but stay focused on the long term so that when we get 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, we're where we need to be able to support ourselves. We're staying up with inflation. We have a good plan for that. And so it's important not to get too caught up in these cycles.
yeah. I mean, that's a great point too because they do happen. I mean, unfortunately, I was just watching a podcast and stuff the other day and about the similarities, the crazy amount of similarities between 1968 and 2024 from a political, social, and societal, I guess, kind of standpoint, right? And there's a lot of similarities in what's going on, and so you kind of go to that quote that's attributed to Mark Twain, at least. No one's, I guess, exactly sure if he actually said it or not, but it's attributed to him saying that history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes, right? And that's
Yes.
fairly similar to this. It's kind of like deja vu all over again. We find ourselves in this cycle sometimes where it's like, hey, boy, I'm right back here again. Well, did you make the same decisions that put you there? Did you make no decision? And is that why you're right back there again? So I think that's kind of what I take away from that particular quote, but it is still as funny no matter how you look at it.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, final one, classic yogiism, Liz. And then most people have heard this one. It ain't over till it's over.
Yeah, and that's a good one too. And I think about until the fat lady sings.
Add
the
that to
quote
it.
that
Yep.
they have.
Mhm.
Yes, but this is really good to think about two things. One is we're going to have ups and downs. We're going to have to persevere. We continue, moving forward in our plan. So whatever's going on in the short term, again, not getting too caught up in that and staying focused on the long term. But the thing that it really makes me think about is our longevity. And we will be here a lot longer than many people are thinking because of all of the improvements in our healthcare, all of the things that they're doing, especially AI, I think is going to have a big impact on the medical and being able to have the right diagnosis and making sure that
Interesting.
people get what they need to live a very long time.
Yeah.
That's already being tested. There's some amazing things going on there. So when we're thinking about our plan, we've got to plan that we're going to live longer than we think we're going to live, than our parents or grandparents lived, and build that in because that's another risk. We talk about the fact that longevity is the great multiplier of all the other risks. The longer you live, the more inflation impacts you, the more money you need. All of these other issues come into play. And so it's not over till it's over, and you want to have a good life all the way to the end. So you've got to think about that.
Well, there you go. So some good yogi-isms to think about when it comes to our finances or just in life in general, right? You can certainly apply these to a lot of different things. So that's going to do it this week for the podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us as always. And of course, if you've got questions, need help, you've listened to an episode or 2 or 3 or however many, and you've got those questions and you want to talk about it, take some action. You're at that fork in the road, take it, as Yogi said, and reach out to Liz at bestpathadvisors.com. That's bestpathadvisors.com. Lots of good tools, tips, and resources there. Subscribe to the podcast on whatever app you like using. Check out our YouTube channel. Lots of good content there as well. So good stuff. I think she's actually called The Good Stuff too on the website, right? So go check it out at bestpathadvisors.com and get started today. Liz, thanks for hanging out. As always, I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mark. We'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you next time right here on Retire on Your Best Path with founder and financial advisor at Best Path Advisors, Liz Whittaberry.
The preceding program is sponsored by Best Path Advisors, which is solely responsible for its content. Securities offered through J.W. Cole Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through J.W. Cole Advisors. Best Path Advisors, J.W. Cole Financial, and J.W. Cole Advisors are unaffiliated entities. The opinions expressed by Liz Whittaberry should not be construed as specific tax, legal, or investment advice, nor as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Neither J.W. Cole Financial nor its representatives provide legal, tax, or accounting advice. Persons who provide such advice do so in a capacity other than as a registered representative of J.W. Cole. Investing is subject to risks, including the loss of principal. Due to volatility within the markets mentioned, opinions are subject to change without notice. Information is based on sources believed to be reliable, however, their accuracy or completeness cannot be guaranteed.